welcome to this week's Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gads, and I'm here with you every Thursday to bring you the very latest from the FAWNL. That's the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. This is a pre-recorded show this week rather than the usual live, just because I'm busy later on out of the house, so can't do the normal live show. So this is going to be a pre-recorded episode. Still got some questions to go through, still going to go through the results and fixtures as normal, but going to race through things relatively quickly. As you might be able to hear, I have been ill all week, and I'm getting onto the right side of it now, but it's lingering around, and it's affecting my ability to breathe and my ability to put my voice across in the way it normally does without sounding a little bit bunged up and different. So we will just race through most of the bits and pieces and then get on to your questions over the course of the past week. Quite a few postponements this week. Not a huge amount has gone on in terms of league football. We had the FA Cup, of course, and the fourth round draw that took place on Monday, which was much better. And we're now only this Sunday is the last round of games before the winter break. So it's going to be a good chance to take stock after this Sunday, which is what I'll be doing on next week's show. But let's crack straight on with the Northern Premier Division. One game, Sporting Cowser against Halifax. Sporting Cowser winning by 6-1. 2 for Laura Smith, 1 for Megan Cann, Annabelle Davis, Macy Winters and Molly Philpott, and 1 for Megan Cardenas for Halifax. Important for the Northern Premier Division table, it means that Sporting Cowser are out of the bottom 2 by a point, although Stourbridge do have 2 games in hand. That Sporting Cowser go into Christmas, because there are no games in the Northern Premier Division this weekend. They go into Christmas out of the relegation zone. Moving then into Division 1 Midlands, pretty much a full programme in this one, just the one game that didn't take place due to a waterlogged pitch. Barnsley Women's beating Boldmere St Michael's by 4-2. 2 for Laura Barter, 1 for Jodie Mikowska and 1 for Olivia Richardson. For Boldmere, who went down to 10, Laura Cooper and Anna Wilcox with their goals. Loughborough Lightning, a convincing 9-0 win over Lincoln City. Hat-tricks for Jade Arbour and Zinnia Delglin, and then 1 each for Jessica Collier, Evie Williams and Fern Powell. Very convincing victory for Loughborough, who are still low down in the table compared to where they would want to be, but have those games in hand and have the opportunity to really close the gap. The game of the day, though, was the big one at the top, Northampton Town against Leafield Athletic, and it's Northampton Town at home who got the narrow 1-0 victory. Kimberly Farrow with the only goal of the game in the 49th minute to give them the 3 points at the top of the table, in a game that was marred really by off the ball incidents, which we'll go into later on. Peterborough United 1, Worcester City 0. 1 goal in this one, and Peterborough rescuing themselves 3 points against Worcester City really in this one. A 92nd minute winner for Megan Lawler. Worcester must be devastated with that one. Thought they were going to hold on for a really crucial point for them, but Peterborough nick it at the death. And then Sutton Coldfield Town beating Solihull Moors by 5-0. Great month Sutton Coldfield Town are having. A hat-trick for Neve Deasy and 1 each for Lauren DeCasto and Emily Hornsby. What it means for the table, Peterborough up to 2nd and Barnsley Women's up to 6th. So Northampton Town winning that game against Leafield Athletic. They pull themselves 3 points clear of Leafield Athletic with a game in hand. Peterborough are up to 2nd. They are 2 behind Northampton, but have played a game more. Loughborough remain 5 points off the top, but with 2 games in hand. And don't forget that one of those games in hand is against Northampton Town. So that could turn out to be a really important fixture when that gets played. Down towards the bottom, then Worcester City denied late on, so they lose. Solihull Moors lose. Lincoln City lose. Lincoln United did not play. What it has done with that win for Sutton Coldfield Town is a 10-point gap now between Sutton Coldfield Town and Solihull Moors. You would think that's probably done it for Sutton Coldfield Town. They're probably there. Lincoln United are probably on the verge. So it's looking like it could be two of those bottom three. Solihull Moors, with that game in hand over Worcester City, could close the gap and make that quite interesting. In the north, there were just 3 games, what with Norton Stockton Ancients against Stockport County being called off. So Barnsley beat AFC Fylde by 4-1. Chorley beating York City 5-3. And Durham Sestra beating Doncaster Rovers Bells by 3-2. Scorers for Barnsley: a 2-goal game for Jodie Gregory, and 1 for Sharon Buckle and 1 for Lauren Wilcock. And then Nicola James with the consolation goal for AFC Fylde on the 76th minute. Chorley beating York 5-3. Good game there, but Chorley coming away with all 3 points. Ellie Cook, Nicola Worthington, Megan Parker for Chorley, with 2 for Grace Vella, and then 1 each for Katie Astle, Ocean Rowlandson and Kenesha Underdown for York City. And Durham Sestra just beating Doncaster Rovers Bells by 3-2. Grace Collinson, Nikki Gears and Erin Nicholson with the goals for Durham Sestra. Jasmine Saxton and Lindsay Tugby-Andrew with the goals for Doncaster Rovers Bells. 89th minute, that goal to Erin Nicholson. So really late winner for Durham Sestra in what was a really good game there as well. So Division 1 North continues to basically provide the vast majority of the entertainment in terms of the table itself. So Chorley are up to second. They're 3 points clear of Cheadletown Stingers, but they have played a game more. Top of the table, Leeds United were not playing. Durham Sestra also up a place, up to 7th. Barnsley remain in 6th. They were at the top of that kind of midfield, and they stay there with their victory. So yeah, you've got same as we've had before, really. The top 5 are separated by 4 points still, and then the teams towards the bottom, they're 6th down to 11th, still separated by 5 points. Sorry, separated now by 5 points. And yeah, I think it might start to split a little bit more, but Stockport have got games in hand. Norton and York have got games in hand. The Durham have got 2 in hand on Barnsley as well. So there's a lot to still be decided in the north. And even like, AFC Fylde, yes, they're bottom of the table, but they're on 7 points. They're only 3 points away from safety, although that goal difference does work against them as well. But it's not as, I don't want to say foregone, because that's the wrong word when we're not even halfway through the season yet, but it's not as obvious perhaps as some of the other leagues might be in terms of who's going to go down. South East results, we've only got 2 to talk about, and perhaps one of the big results of the day really, and one I wasn't expecting myself, was Actonians losing 5-1 at home to Cambridge United. Actonians' only goal coming to Prudence Warmouth in the 27th minute, but 2 for Isabella Simmons, 2 for Sarah Wiltshire and 1 for Rosie Wadhams means that Cambridge United went to Actonians, who were top of the league not that long ago, don't forget, and won 5-1. So really good result for Cambridge United, and a huge result for Chesham United, who won 1-0 away at London Seaward in the first battle of those sides towards the bottom of the table. Rebecca Fraser with the only goal of the game in the 65th minute. London Seaward's job was made all the more harder when they went down to 10 in the 38th minute. And I have to commend, I think is the word I'm going to go with, Chesham United for the tomfoolery is the wrong word. I'll put hilarity of nominating Chloe O'Brien, who is the London Seaward player who got sent off in the first half, as Chesham United's opposition player of the match. Now, undoubtedly, London Seaward playing with 10 for nearly, 55 minutes, may have had a big impact on the outcome of that game and Cheshire United winning 1-0, and Cheshire may feel that that was the player, by not being on the pitch at all, that helped them get the win and makes the difference. But to name somebody who got sent off before the end of the first half as the player of the match is it made me chuckle, let's put it that way, and fair play to Chesham for going down that route. But it is a huge 3 points for them. As you can see from the table, they are now 4 points clear of the other two sides in that kind of bottom three battle, and it's one of these where I think, should Chesham get another victory this weekend, and they are playing Ashford Town this weekend, and they are at home this weekend, if we get to Christmas and Cheshire United have got themselves to 10 points, London Seaward, who have Dulwich Hamlet, are still on 3, and Ashford Town are still on 3, and it's a 7-point gap between those bottom two and 10th, you can almost write Division 1 South East off in terms of the relegation there. And I think that this could be a really important month for Cheshire United, particularly if they get the win this weekend. That month, these 8 days, could be Cheshire United's entire season. Towards the top, so there was only one other game. Actonians losing to Cambridge United by 5-1 means they drop a spot in the table on goal difference. But they have played 2 games more now than Chatham and Rail Bedford. So it is looking like now it might be a bit closer to a 2-horse race between Bedford and Chatham, because they've got games in hand on everyone around them apart from Sudbury. But Sudbury would only get to 21 if they won their game in hand over them. So it might well be a 2-horse race between those two. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks, but we might see that gap starts to increase quite considerably. Just finally, Division 1 South, well, finally for league fixtures, I should say that. Division 1 South West. Only one game. Keynsham Town beating Swindon Town by 2-1. Naomi Clipston and Imogen Stocker with the goals for Keynsham Town. Swindon Town, scored 1 from the penalty spot. That was their only goal of the game, and that one was scored by, and I've got to remember, Annabelle Colston, because Swindon haven't put their stuff on full time yet. It's maybe a slight shock in that one, or maybe Swindon's early season form was somewhat elevated. We'll have to see. But Swindon Town remains second because nobody else played. Keynsham Town, though, jumped to 4th now in the table. They are 4 points behind Swindon in second. Of course, Bournemouth are a point clear at the top, ahead of Swindon with 3 games in hand. They are 5 clear of Moneyfields with a game in hand. They are 5 clear of Keynsham with 2 games in hand. I think the question for me now is, can Bournemouth go? Played 22, won 22. That's my question, really. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. But I think realistically in South West, Bournemouth are going to win the league, and they should really be in Tier 3 after only just missing out last year. It's all going to be down to the bottom, really, I think, in that tier. Right, FA Cup. Let's do that. FA Cup 3rd round. Oh, I'm in the way. Hang on, let me just move myself. You can get the top of my head. I'll stand up a bit more like that. There we go. Women's FA Cup 3rd round. We had at the weekend 16 of the 20 games take place because we lost Ipswich Bournemouth, Oxford Bristol Rovers, Kidderminster Blackburn and Forest Burnley to the weather. So again, I'll race through these really because there weren't any shocks really in the Women's FA Cup in the third round. Nothing major. So we'll go through this relatively quickly. As I said, the 4th round draw has been made, and it was an okay draw. It didn't throw up a huge amount of, oh wow, that's an incredible tie, So we'll just see kind of how that goes over the next round or two. Those ties are to be played on the 12th of January. So Stoke City beating Chestnut Street Town by 2-1. 2 goals for Millie Ravening there for Stoke. Wolves beating Shrewsbury 14-0. 5 for Charlotte Greengrass, 2 for Beth Merrick, 2 for Jade Cross, 1 for Rebecca Anderson, Tammy George, Anna Morfitt, Destiny Toussaint and Anya Denham. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep, there were no own goals in that. 14-0. Sheffield United beat Liverpool Feds by 2-0. Very good effort from Liverpool Feds, has to be said, in that one. Newcastle United beating Middlesbrough by 2-0. West Bromwich Albion beating Cheadletown Stingers 2-0. Tier 3 against Tier 4 there. Taylor Reynolds and Seren Watkins with the goals for West Brom. Durham beat Birmingham City 1-0 in an all-championship tie. Sunderland of the Championship beat Huddersfield Town 4-0. Rugby Borough 3, Mancunian Unity 0, and Mancunian Unity of Tier 5. Kellis Barton, Alanta Brown and Yasmin Mosby with the goals for Rugby Borough. Portsmouth of the Championship beat Luton Town 5-0. London City Lionesses beat Gwalior United 4-0. In Tier 5 Fulham, they beat Brentford 2-1. That was Tier 5 Fulham against Tier 6 Brentford in the all lower than FAWNL tie. And Fulham have been rewarded with a game against London City Lionesses in the next round. Charlton Athletic beat Lewis 4-0. Southampton lost to Bristol City 3-0. Cheltenham Town, they needed extra time to get past Norwich, so very good effort from Norwich City, but 2-1 that game. Una Lu in the 53rd minute and then the 8th minute of extra time. Hope Strauss with the goal for Norwich City. Exeter City needed extra time to get past Worthing. They won 3-1 in the end. Sophie Gillies in the 70th minute of normal time and then one in extra time as well. Sarah Stacey with the other extra time goal for Exeter City. Sophie Humphrey with the goal for Worthing in normal time. And probably the game of the day is between London Bees and Queen's Park Rangers, that all Division 1 South East tie, which was quite some game. 3-3 at the end of normal time. So Millie Isherwood, Queen's Park Rangers haven't got their goal scorers on full time yet, which is not particularly helpful. So this is going to be a very London Bees one-sided account of this game. But London Bees in the first minute through Millie Isherwood. And then in the 77th minute, she gets another. In the 90 plus 9, she gets a third. Then we go into extra time. Lily Whitelock in the 14th minute of extra time. Hayley Hoare in the 28th minute of extra time. And then Isherwood again in the 30 plus 2 minute of extra time. Means that she scores 4 for the game plus the ones from everywhere else. And London Bees are the ones that go through into the next round. So yeah, great extra time game there between those two Division 1 South East teams. And as they said in the draw on Monday night, you look at those sides, there's only 1 point between them in the league, so it was always going to be a good game, and so it proved to be. Right, let's go through and have a look at fixtures coming up, and then we're going to go into some of your points and talk about some of the big talking points from the week. We're going to start then with the Southern Premier Division, which has 4 games. We're not going into the Northern Premier Division. There are no games in the Northern Premier Division, so that table is as it is going to be at the end of the year. So AFC Wimbledon against Gwalior United, that's 7th against 10th. Billericay Town take on Watford, 8th against 6th. Cheltenham Town against MK Dons is 9th against 12th. And Exeter City against Lewis is 3rd against 5th. So other than that Exeter City-Lewis game, it's all teams down towards the bottom. Now, you kind of get the feeling that particularly everybody from Billericay Town up are already safe. It's a 10-point gap at the moment. But could be a big weekend for Cheltenham Town and maybe for Gwalior United as well. If Cheltenham can get 3 points against Milton Keynes Dons, and probability suggests that they will, then they get themselves 8 points clear with Plymouth not playing. If Gwalior can get a victory against AFC Wimbledon, then they can move themselves 5 clear. So it could be a really big weekend for some of those teams down towards the bottom. And I think this is the time of year now where, particularly because the league games are going to get so disrupted throughout January and February with postponements, plus the cup competitions as well, it's really important to get these points on the board, which is what these teams towards the bottom haven't done. And they're going to have to work really hard over Christmas to figure out what went wrong and figure out how they're going to do the second half of the season differently to ensure their survival in Tier 3. Division 1 Midlands then, 5 games in this one. Lincoln City in 12th are hosting Peterborough United, who are 2nd. That's going to be a tricky game for them. Similarly for Worcester City, who are in 10th, hosting Northampton Town, who are top of the table. Bournemouth St Michael's against Sutton Coldfield Town. That's 5th against 8th. Leaford Athletic take on Barnsley Women as well, 3rd there against 6th. Perhaps with their slightly dodgy run of form at the moment, Barnsley Women might fancy the opportunity to take something away from Castle Vale. And Solihull Moors against Lincoln United is 12th against 10th. That could be a big game, a game where Lincoln United, if they win that game, may well see themselves safe, 10 points clear of relegation, whereas if Solihull Moors win that and close that gap to 4, it's very much more looking over your shoulder. So bottom of the table, 6-pointer, let's call it, although I hate that phrase. Yeah, really big important game towards the bottom there. Division 1 North, also 5 games. Doncaster Rovers Bells against Chorley. That one is, 11th against 2nd, so difficult one for Doncaster there. Barnsley against Durham Sestra. That's a mid-table battle there of 6th against 7th. Leeds United take on Fylde, top against bottom. Stockport County against Huddersfield Town. That's 9th against 4th. And York City against Cheadletown Stingers, 10th against 3rd. So plenty of kind of top versus bottom games in Division 1 North. So then we might not see too much change in the table, let's say, because of Leeds, Chorley, Cheadle, Huddersfield. Well, yeah, I mean, Leeds are playing bottom. Chorley, who are 2nd, are playing 2nd bottom. Cheadle, who are 3rd, are playing 3rd bottom. And Huddersfield, who are 4th, are playing 4th bottom. So, and then actually Middlesbrough aren't playing Norton, who are 5th and 7th. And then it's the middle 2 of 6th versus 7th. So it is exactly a top versus bottom showdown in Division 1 North. You would expect, therefore, that everyone at the top wins and goes up 3 points, and everybody at the bottom stays exactly how they are. The only movement might be towards the top with goal difference. We'll see. So that's the situation in Division 1 North. Division 1 South East, a full programme of fixtures in Division 1 South East. Some of them, I mean, in the Southern Premier Division, obviously there's those 2 games off because of the FA Cup, which is the same situation then in South West, which is what we'll get onto shortly. But South East, that's it, full programme of fixtures. Cambridge United against Norwich City, 9th against 7th. That Norwich City wasn't that long ago where Norwich City, top of the table, looking good. They're now in the bottom half of Division 1 South East. There is the big game though, Chesham United, Ashford Town. If Chesham win that game, they are 7 points clear of the relegation zone at the Christmas break. And you then go into it going, well, then the teams in the relegation zone have played like 12 or 13 games. You think that's pretty much it there in Division 1 South East. Dulwich Hamlet against London Seaward. Dulwich Hamlet are in 8th. London Seaward are 11th. Queen's Park Rangers against AFC Sudbury is a mid-table battle of 5th against 6th. Rail Bedford against London Bees, 1st against 4th. That could be a really important game. You think if Rail Bedford win that game, that's completely it to any title challenge London Bees might be able to come up with if they were to fall 8 points back and Real Bedford have a game in hand. And then Chatham Town Actonians second against third. Huge game not just for their title chances, but for Real Bedford's. Best case scenario for Bedford's point of view is that these two draw. I would also argue actually that from Real Bedford's point of view, they, I think, would want an Actonians win, because it would mean that Bedford have the chance to increase the gap over Chatham, but because Actonians have still played 2 more than Real Bedford, Bedford could still pull away from Actonians a lot more. So, yeah, a couple of really big games in Division 1 South East. Division 1 South West, there are just 4. There is the odd County Cup game this weekend as well. But Division 1 South West, Bridgewater United against Maidenhead United, which is kind of a mid-table battle there. Both sides not overly comfortable yet, but too far away from the relegation zone to really have to worry about it. Moneyfields against Abingdon United, 3rd against 9th. Southampton Women's take on Worthing, 12th against 6th. Keynsham Town against Portishead Town, 4th against 10th. So those sides that are playing, again, it's majoritively in the bottom half, which is a trend you'll see around this time of year, because as a general rule, the teams doing well in the leagues go further in the cup competition, so their league games get postponed because they're playing in cup competitions. So in terms of Division 1 South West, I mean, there's no Swindon, there's no Bournemouth. Moneyfields can't climb any higher. Keynsham could close that gap again to Swindon, but they can't actually catch them. Bristol Rovers aren't playing, and then you're into the mid-table anyway. So not a huge amount, I suspect, is going to happen in Division 1 South West. The gaps to relegation might change a bit, but that's kind of about it. Right, cup games. Women's FA Cup 3rd round, involving FAWNL sides. Ipswich against Bournemouth, Oxford United against Bristol Rovers. Postponed last week, being played this week. Forest against Burnley is not. That is being played on the 5th of January rather than this weekend. The other game, Kidderminster of Tier 5 against Blackburn of Tier 2, obviously isn't normally covered on this show. That's also being played this weekend. Forest Burnley is not being played this weekend because of the FAWNL Cup quarter-finals. You know, we've already got Hashtag and Plymouth through. They played theirs a couple of weeks ago. But because that of the last round of the FA Cup, they got moved to now, and then the cup got postponed and it all got messy. But on Saturday, Burnley are playing Stoke City. That is at Turf Moor, which it would stand to reason is a big reason why the Forest Burnley game has been pushed back until after the Christmas break, because it's a big income provider for Burnley having this game at Turf Moor. Then on Sunday, Middlesbrough against Nottingham Forest. You would fancy Forest in this game. Naturally, they're the Tier 3 side against the Tier 4 side. But, you know, who knows what's going to happen in the Cup. And then in the Plate quarter-final, Loughborough Lightning against Manchester United Academy. Come on, Loughborough. Get rid of another PGA side. We badly need them to get rid of another PGA side because Southampton are already in the semi-finals. Cheltenham and Bournemouth are the other two sides, aren't they, that are in the semi-final already. This is the last one. Going through these has reminded me that the league did say that the draw is taking place at some point this coming weekend for the semi-finals. Semi-finals are to be played on the 26th of January. Then obviously the final of the cup is in March. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who goes through. I really hope it's Loughborough because I am very scared of a Manchester United Southampton final and having two PGA sides getting to the final. I will tell you now, if it is two PGA sides in the final, you will not hear about the final on this show. I will boycott it because I hate the fact the PGA sides are in this competition. And, you know, I will treat the FAWNL Plate with the same rules that I treat the FA Cup. I will continue to cover the competition as long as there is an FAWNL side in it. And if all the FAWNL sides are out after the semi-final stage, then I won't cover the competition anymore. It's as simple as that. So those are the final fixtures taking place over the next 7 days. As I said, Sunday is the final round of fixtures before the Christmas break. Let's then, as we get finished up, talk about some of the things that you have been discussing this week in the FAWNL. Had a message in from Harley who said, in your YouTube this week, maybe you could comment on clubs using the wind excuse for not travelling. If this is allowed, it's wide open to abuse where a club has injuries or suspensions and choose not to play maybe an important match as soon as a yellow wind warning comes out, knowing it will be rescheduled with maybe their full team available. So it was an interesting one in the sense that obviously we had the storm over last weekend as well. Quite a few games were off. There is obviously a difference between a waterlogged pitch and teams choosing not to travel. I think the problem with citing wind as a reason not to travel is that as soon as another team in your area does, then it makes it very difficult for that to become a valid reason. So, for example, let's go from this past weekend. It was a very rare red weather warning in Wales, danger to life, etc. And seeing that that was coming, even in the men's game, all the football got cancelled, everything was off. Don't go outside, stay at home, stay safe, all the rest of it. Fine. Women's game followed suit, all fine. Again, and this is not just in football, but obviously I do a lot of ice hockey coverage for the BBC as well. We had teams on Sunday take a coach from Cardiff up to Nottingham. Belfast flew in on the Friday to Cardiff to play their game. Plenty of teams were travelling all around the country in coaches. So you lose, I think, the credibility of that reason. In my view, and obviously I do not make these decisions, in my view, that goes down as failing to fulfil a fixture. And therefore, I think it should be looked at by the board. We'll see what happens. Obviously, we will wait. We will get decisions at some point. But for me, it goes down as failing to fulfil a fixture. So if the team has done that, then perhaps they need to look and start building a case relatively quickly. Right. So other questions from the past week or so. And this kind of also comes again from, well, this one comes from Nick, who put his question to me on Sunday. And this was after the Forest Burnley game got called off late with that waterlogged pitch. Forest fans, rightly, complained about Halifax calling a game off last season in similar circumstances, but without the weather warnings and the major storm, which, to be fair, on Sunday didn't really hit this part of the world. What compensation are Forest providing to the Burnley fans who travelled down today for the game? Not a clue. I think it might just, well, it's a refund of the ticket. Normally you say, oh, your ticket's valid, don't you, and all the rest of it. But because there's a change in venue for the replayed game, because it's not being played at Grange Park, it's being played at the City Ground, you have to get your ticket refunded and then buy another one. But it's no different really to, if a men's game gets postponed, people don't put in their 45p a mile driving. So I don't think there's really a lot you can do there. And then we had one more, which wasn't directed straight at me, but it works as a question, so I will look at it. And this was a question actually put to a women's football reporter at the Telegraph in Catherine Batt. Said, should there be an FA-wide promotion of mental health awareness rather than just the WSL and a bit in the Championship? Women's football has an opportunity to be different, but at times like this, it is failing. Now, this is coming off the back of a statement put out by a Leafield Athletics player, but it's been put out by the coach, Tas Chesjul, who said she wasn't going to comment, but one of the players has been affected by what happened yesterday at our most recent FAWNL game, so it's my duty too. Football is a game. Mocking mental well-being is not. It's unacceptable at all levels of our sport. So this is kind of coming off the back of, you remember I mentioned it, was it last week, a couple of weeks ago, this new policy from Leafield Athletic. Great policy. If you haven't seen the interview, go and watch it. Hoping to get Tash onto the show at some point, but I want to give her the full full concentration and give her the full what she deserves, a full proper go at it. So I'm waiting until I'm not ill and I'm not thinking about taking drinks and all the rest of it. So the statement goes, the phrase is used a lot with the new team. You are enough is the phrase that they're trying to push here, because they are humans before footballers. Yesterday, players from another club mocked us over and over again about it, then laughed about it, trying to get a reaction. You can laugh about football, take the piss, wind people up, it's all part of the game, but repeatedly mocking someone's mental health and mocking people for speaking up about mental health struggles is just disrespectful and honestly hurtful. In the women's game, we're trying to make things better. The work the Maddie Cusack Foundation is doing is amazing. More clubs are starting to step up and do more. But yesterday I felt very let down that there are still so many in the game who don't take mental health seriously. Better yet, laugh about it. We've still got a long way to go, unfortunately. Hashtag you are enough. Now, I think nowhere in there is the team involved mentioned. It is not difficult to go online and see who Leafield Athletic played the day before that statement came out. It is not difficult to go back on this show and see that they played Northampton Town. Obviously, only having one side of the story is difficult to put together a full picture of what happened. Northampton Town have said nothing. I really think Leafield should go to the league and put their account of what happened and see what the league. If I was Leafield, I'd be going into the league and saying this happened. I think it goes against kind of the morals and the values that the league should stand for. But it just leaves, and again, if people have been saying it on the Twitter, and I say my phone has been blowing up a bit because Tash tagged the Women's Football Chat account at W Football Chat into this, and it just, as it said in that statement there, every time we seem to go forward, we then seem to go back. And that, I think, is the most frustrating bit about all of this. As I said, there is the opportunity there to do so much good, and yet every time we go forward, we seem to go back. So, and I don't want to go too much into this because, as I said, I would love to get Tash on and not talk about that particular incident, but to talk about this policy in general. And I do want to give it the time it deserves. So, maybe I'll try and get that on during the winter break. And so once I've cleared all of this, it is sad that we've gone from something that was so good 2 weeks ago, and then not 10 days, 2 weeks later, we're coming on the same show and going, well, actually putting this policy in place has caused X, Y, Z against us, and it's just not good enough. So hopefully more progress will be made in that over the coming weeks and seasons. Right. That'll about do it then for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. I've got through it just about. So next week is going to be our Christmas special. Hey! Because I'm not going to do one on Boxing Day. Nobody wants to sit on Boxing Day and listen to me talk about football when nothing's happened. So we're going to round up the first half of the season next week. We're going to look at those results. We should race through that pretty quickly. We're then going to look at the award races. Who is appalling for getting stuff on full time? Club stats. There's going to be a lot going out on @WFootballChat over the coming week. Once we get past Sunday and I can get the club rankings in, all 72 of them ranked. So there's going to be a lot of that going out. And then it's the W Football Chat Awards. It's the alternative awards. I'm going to come up with some titles for awards I'm going to hand out, and we're going to hand them out to clubs. It's stuff like, for example, most likely side to fail to RSVP to your wedding invite, which is going to be York City, because in their 10 league games they've missed out the information on full time 6 times out of 10. And things like that. I've had a couple of other suggestions as well. But it's things like, team that made me chuckle the most, and it's Cheshire United after giving the man of the match, the player of the match to the London Seawood player who got sent off. So yes, if you have any ideas for categories and winners, or even if you don't have ideas for winners, but just any ideas for humorous categories that we can award next week, then do send them to me at WFootballChat. But that will about do it for this week's episode of the show. Thank you very much for sticking with me. And as I said, next week we will be back Thursday, 8 p.m. To round up 2024. Goodbye.